This podcast may contain discussions of graphic violence, unsettling themes, supernatural phenomena, and other topics that some listeners may find disturbing or triggering. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are simply those of the individual hosts and do not represent the profession of psychology or constitute professional advice. Welcome back, everyone, to the Secret Passage podcast. I am your host, Dana Vespoli. With me is my amazing co-host, Shannon Rogers.
Hello, everyone.
Well, here we are. This is an exciting time. My twins go back to school as high schoolers on Wednesday.
Aww.
And it's almost fall, which is my favorite time of year.
It's Summerween.
Summerween, yeah. I love hearing that. I love spooky season. And lots of things going on. You have an office change, right?
I have an office change. Oh, God. I got my own office full-time in Walnut Creek, and Tim and I are painting it, which is a total nightmare, but it's okay. I'm going to be done soon, and I will have my own office.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll have it all day. I'm only going to be there like 3 days a week, but it's going to be great to just have the space.
Any secret passages that you wandered down this past week?
Okay. I had a couple I was thinking of. So it's funny, you left me a message yesterday and you were saying how you think of me as high functioning. And then I'm over here living my life like a total teenager. Like Tim and I, we own our own home, but there's so much we don't know how to do. Like we don't know how. We got a gas grill years ago and we've probably used it like 3 times. And so we replaced this little cord thing that like needed to be replaced to the propane, that whatever, it's not even a cord, it's like something is called something else, but goes to the propane. And so we started using it the other night and we were grilling and all of a sudden I hear this little voice. I'm upstairs. Our house is like backwards, like our kitchen and stuff is upstairs and then there's downstairs, there's like bedrooms and there's a bedroom upstairs too. But so I hear this little voice, Shannon, we have a problem. Just very calm. And it's Tim. And I go outside and there's like a giant inferno. The whole grill is on fire, like right next to the house. And Tim's like, I guess we should move it. And he's like scooting it back. And I'm looking at these flames and there's the propane tank right next to it. And I'm just like, oh my God. And so we managed to live and turn it off and not burn our house down. But he cleaned the grill like yesterday. So we will not have that problem again. But there you are. We don't know how to do very basic things like keep our grill clean to avoid grease fires and stuff like that.
Dude, I feel that. I really feel that. In Zoolander when Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson are like trying to figure out the computer and they're like apes and they're like,
yeah,
that's me with like basic tasks. I always talk about how like I had deficits like growing up, like deficits in my learning where I'm well versed in some stuff that like gives the impression that I know what I'm talking about or whatever. And then things where I'm like, I don't get it. Like things that my children understand like 100 times over. And I'm like, can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand. So I'm right there with you. I don't know how to do some shit at all. Like we have a weed whacker.
Oh, we do too.
Well, we never figured out how to put it together.
Yes.
Like Jay and I, another one who is like high functioning in some ways. And then when it comes to like normal, we were both just late to the game, late to the game on stuff. And, so we can't figure it out. I got it for cheap off Amazon, and then I was like super impatient. So then we just went to, oh, what's the name of the store? I fucking love this place, Tractor Supply. So
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
But and got one that was already put together. You know, I don't like. There's some shit I can't figure it out. I just don't know. So
Thank God
I feel
Tim's good at figuring things out, but he's also doesn't have this intuition. Okay, so I feel like I have really good intuition about stuff that is it's my OCD kind of thing. It's like we our dishwasher, our dish disposal, our garbage disposal broke. And so we've just been not replacing it because Tim wants to replace it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'm so anxious about him doing it. I feel like a plumber should do it.
Dude, I'm thinking about the grill.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about a fucking garbage disposal in his hands. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. No, he's actually so good at stuff like this, which is, I'm getting to the like intuition part. Like for me, I'm like, he left the grease pan in that thing that'd been in there for like 3 years, had never been changed, turns it up full heat, shuts the thing and doesn't even think about like that going off. I would think about that. So like, basically we had rice one night and we have like the thing that blocks the sink from stuff going down the drain that doesn't get ground up because it's not working. Right. So he's like, what? It's just a little rice. And he like, I'm all, don't let that rice go down the drain. It's going to plug the drain. Yes. And he's like, whatever. He just ignores me. And like 2 days later, it's all backed up. And I'm like, you put rice down there, didn't you? And he's all like quiet. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, of course, rice is glutinous. Yes. You put a bunch of it down the drain. It's going to get bigger. It's going to block the drain.
It's basically like glue.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing he does not have intuition about. So together, I feel like we have one functioning homeowner brain. Anyway, what's your secret passage?
I have a few things. One is, so everything is happening so quickly with just passage of time. It's insane. So have you ever heard of this show called The Chosen?
Yes, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, so I started watching it, and it's really fucking awesome. And the people that made it, the way they did it, it's really cool. So for anyone that just wants to watch like a good series, it's a good series. You know, you don't have to be like a Christian to watch it. You can just enjoy it as a series, historical drama, whatever. Hang on a second. Siri, be quiet. No, Siri.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Siri fucking popped up.
If you say serious, it will pop up.
Yeah.
Because it thinks you're saying Siri.
I know. I'm so mad at you, Siri.
But I didn't hear her. We don't hear her on our end.
Well, okay, good. Mine has an Australian accent because I pretend that it's my bearded dragon talking to me. Anyway. So what's cool about it is someone who's like, well, I already read the New Testament. I'm almost done with the Old Testament, and then I'll go back and reread the New Testament using my study guide. But what's cool about it is that it shows. So it's basically it's the New Testament, right? So it's the show starts with you meet the apostles first. I mean, the apostles, and you get to see historically what's happening. You get to meet these characters, and they use vernacular. They speak in like this kind of like more modern vernacular. It doesn't feel anachronistic, really. You're just able to kind of see these relationship dynamics. You're able to see what life was like, and the guy that plays Jesus is just awesome. You get to see like this kind of dry sense of humor. And if when you read the New Testament, you see it. Like if you're able to kind of like look at what is being said, he's got a sense of humor. He's very dry, can be sarcastic, all that. Just seems like a really laid back, really cool dude. Matthew is so interesting in it because he's presented as being on the spectrum.
Whoa.
He's a tax collector, right? When you meet him, he's a tax collector. And I'm watching him, and he's kind of got, he stims. He is very preoccupied with things being factual. And I was like, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I Googled it. I'm like, is Matthew depicted as being on the spectrum? And then the response that came is yes, like that was done intentionally, based on reading the book of Matthew and kind of
Wow.
deciphering like some certain things. Now, definitively, we don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but the creators of the show, number one, felt that as one of them is on the spectrum, really
Mm-hmm.
felt that, and then was like, well, let's present him this way because it seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
And also it goes to the point of also just some representation and stuff. It's just really good. I highly recommend it, even for people that are not interested in Christianity. As a show, it's really entertaining. It's really good.
Wow.
So I watched that.
I'm always like wanting to learn more about the Bible and Christianity and stuff like that. So that's a good way, right? It sticks
Yes.
it's pretty true to the actual New
For the
Testament?
for the most part. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
of course there's going to be some things where there are, but it follows it. Yes.
Uh-huh. That's cool.
So whether you want to know precisely how he ended up, let's say, curing the man of his, he couldn't walk, and
Mm-hmm.
Jesus cures him.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where like we know biblically that happened. The way it
Mm-hmm.
happened, they probably took some creative liberties with,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's fine. It's a way of bringing the Bible to life, and in a way that will be of interest to people, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly for anybody that can't, they don't want to sit through, they don't want to necessarily sit and read scripture. They can watch a show that is presented in this very exciting way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
yeah,
I'll
so
watch it.
that's, I binged a few episodes of that, and that was, I guess, my secret passage. I mean, I already told you guys that I'm gearing up for the new school year. So speaking of school year, Paris Lee Bennett didn't see the rest of junior high. I'm trying to find a way into our episode.
Yes. Oh, you know what I was going to say?
What?
Tim said last time, that when you talked about on our last episode, what led us to do the episode. That'd be interesting just to talk a little bit about why we're interested. We love psychopaths on this podcast.
Endlessly fascinating.
Right.
Well, you guys, listeners and viewers, may already know about the Lyman case that this event that happened in March of this year to the Lyman family. It's very brutal. There's still not a lot of information, and the alleged perpetrator is a minor, so he's unnamed. This woman, Jessica Lyman, and her son Eli were found murdered, shot to death in their home by Jessica's 17-year-old daughter. So the 17-year-old girl came home, found her mother and 8-year-old little brother shot to death, and the mother was found with her pants down. The police were called, and the 15-year-old son had been at home, but had said he didn't hear anything. He'd been on his phone, then I think went to sleep, and didn't hear the gunshots, anything. So this woman, Jessica, lived at this house with her 15-year-old, her 8-year-old, and her 17-year-old daughter. And when the police further investigated the case, on the security camera, you could see a guy wearing a mask entering the home. And when they were investigating, searching the house, they found that mask in the 15-year-old son's room. They found some weird note saying this is a murder story and all this kind of stuff.
And some of her clothing were in
Some
there.
of her intimate clothing was
intimate
found.
clothing. I wondered about that. Oof.
Was found in his room. And male DNA, semen, was found next to her body. So that's all that we have. The murder happened in March. The 15-year-old, again, he's a minor, so he's unnamed as of now. And there's still an investigation ongoing, but everything kind of points to the 15-year-old boy. And when I read about this case, it reminded me of Paris Lee Bennett, a 13-year-old boy who in 2007 murdered his 4-year-old sister in their Abilene, Texas home. And his semen was found near her body, the 4-year-old's body. So that reminded me a lot. We still don't, there's still more questions around the Lyman case, but what this brings up is, again, we always want to know why these things happen. And some people just want to say, well, in Paris's case, he is a diagnosed psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have spoken at length about how can these things be prevented? Not the psychopathy, obviously, but the homicide, right? The homicidal stuff. So we have been discussing that quite a bit. But I will go ahead and give you kind of the summary and timeline, listeners who maybe are not familiar with the case of Paris Lee Bennett. Paris Lee Bennett was a 13-year-old boy living in Abilene, Texas, with his mother, Charity Bennett, and his little sister, Ella Bennett. Paris is a verified genius with an IQ of around 142 and did exceedingly well in school, was a very cute and precocious little boy. There's a documentary called The Family I Had, which is about this case, and it's available to watch. You can even watch. I've watched it free on YouTube. But Paris came from a family of smart people. Like Charity, somehow, she'd been like a struggling. She struggled with drugs as a teen. Still managed to graduate early from high school. And at the point that Paris was around 13 or so, around that time, Charity was getting her master's degree while also working at a local restaurant. And then Paris's grandmother, high functioning, just a really intelligent, ambitious, very successful, very well-to-do businesswoman. She had, was it a trucking company?
Yeah, a large trucking company, successful.
Yeah, the largest, I think, in the region or something.
Co-owned with her ex-husband.
Yeah, co-owned with her ex-husband. We'll get into that. Paris's father, on the other hand, was mentally ill.
He had schizophrenia. I think he was diagnosed.
Yeah. And the thing with schizophrenia is it doesn't skip generations.
It's not 100% transmittable, I guess, or I don't know about the skipping generations, but that's an interesting point.
Because Paris is not schizophrenic.
No, but he said he had, it's interesting because he said he had delusions. That he saw his sister rising up as like a demon or something.
I think that was trying to, because as of even now, there's nothing to indicate that he sees anything. If he's a master manipulator, he's good at assessing situations and then behaving in a way that benefits him the most. And he was doing that from a very early age. But you see in the home movie footage, Paris being just adorable. I mean, he really was. He was a cute little fucking kid.
So
very cute, very creative. Seemed to really relish social interaction. He was very social. He had friends at the point that he committed these crimes. He was a kid. One woman in the documentary said that if you kind of looked at Paris, then he seemed like kind of a skater kid. He was active, really artistic, very articulate, etc. So Charity was a single mom, and what has been said, but it's still up for debate. We may never know exactly why it happened, because Paris, I see him sometimes just sort of wanting to give like a pat answer. It is believed that Paris was jealous of the attention that Ella was getting from his mother. It's also said that he was upset because his mother had relapsed not long before on cocaine. And he wanted to hurt her. And he had thought about killing his own mother. And then he thought, well, no, because then she'll be dead. What's something that would hurt her? Okay, well, I'll kill Ella. And then she'll lose both her children. Her daughter will be dead, and then Paris will be put away or sent away. But also he had thought just generally about killing. He had thought about killing his babysitter, thought about killing Charity, his mother, thought about killing one of his friends, which really goes to show that, that lack of empathy and also that very calculated mind.
The interesting part about the way he described it was he was saying, I was angry all day and I wanted to hurt someone. And it's like he could feel it coming, right? He wanted to hurt someone. He wanted to complete that action. You know how emotions make us do things, right? And most of us can cap it off, right? I would love to slit the tires of anybody who blocks my driveway, but I don't because, and I'm all because I don't want to get caught. Just kidding. But I don't because it's not the ethical thing to do.
Right.
But, it was building in him. And it's almost like it felt like it didn't have a stopper, right? Like he was going to act it out. And it was just so, but I don't know if I believe anything he says, but
I don't either.
Yeah.
That because there's also the point where about a month before this happened, he tried to stab his mother.
Yeah. I mean, he was definitely he definitely had, but that's so interesting, right? We can get into this more when we do our commentary, but after that action, what action was taken to help him? Do we know?
The action that was taken to help him was they took him to essentially a hospital, a facility. That facility wanted to keep Paris, and his mother said no and took him home.
And they were adamant with her. They were like, this is a real problem. They told her, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, did it even need to fucking be said that it was a problem?
Try to stab me. You're going it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I understand as a mother the dumb ass things that parents sometimes do to try to protect their children, except that she had a 4-year-old at home.
Yeah.
A 4-year-old. And then the night of the murder, sorry, listeners, we'll get back. So what ends up happening is Charity leaves Paris and Ella in the care of a babysitter. We know nothing about this babysitter. I'd love to know. Oh, I'd love to know, was it an adult, babysitter? Was it a teen babysitter? I get the impression that the babysitter
said teen.
Okay. Well, this babysitter did not know anything about Paris having tried to stab Charity or anything. I think any babysitter would say, I'm not going to do this job then because that's scary. But so this happened February of 2007. Charity left Paris and Ella in the care of a babysitter. Later on, Paris convinced the babysitter to just go home, that he's got it from here, which he's 13. I remember babysitting kids when I was 12, so whatever. Maybe it's like the mom was going to be home soon. I have no idea what he said to her. Again, master manipulator. Babysitter leaves.
She was scared of him. I wondered if she was like, I'm getting the hell out of here. If she could sense anyway.
Yeah, maybe not so much that Ella was going to, because Ella was asleep. So probably she thought, well, worst case scenario is Paris is just going to, dick around with his toys or whatever. And then Charity will be at home. The babysitter leaves. And then Paris grabs a kitchen knife, goes into Ella's room, stabs her 17 times. He confessed to sexually assaulting her. I'm not sure if that was pre or post mortem. And then he called 911. And, you can find the 911 call. He sounds appropriately frantic. I don't believe he actually was. They suggest giving her CPR. He probably didn't give her CPR. And then, and then he was taken into custody, and he was, he pled guilty. He was taken to a juvenile, essentially a juvenile prison, and then was moved to an adult prison, Ferguson, I forgot, in Midland, Texas, right?
I think so.
Yeah, when he was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where he still is. He is eligible for parole in 2027. Not sure if he'll actually be granted parole. I don't think so. I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that he is still very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
There's a chilling interview with him and Pierce Morgan. There's a couple, actually. There's one with Pierce and then one with another news organization, I think. But there's the Pierce Morgan one. It's a good one.
It's really good.
Yeah, even for those that don't like Pierce Morgan, it's done really, really well. He is very measured. He's very deliberate in his speaking. Again, highly intelligent. He has like the best posture I've ever seen. He's like this.
Yeah, and the way he moves.
You see him at the end of the interview.
Yes.
He takes off his microphone and he carefully puts on his glasses and he stands up and he just walks out of the room. Perfect posture. Very, very, very conscious of every little thing he does. And I don't know if it's the behavioral specialists that point this out or if it's Pierce or even his mother. I can't remember who says this, but that like he's careful with what he's saying because he is aware that his parole hearing will be coming up soon. So his word choices, he's careful to say, I made a mistake. It's like stabbing your 4-year-old sister 17 times and sexually assaulting her. Being a mistake is an interesting take.
Like diminishing the
really trying
severity
to diminish it.
of, yeah. Did you catch the thing that he said? This is the crazy. This to me was so chilling.
What?
So Piers Morgan was pushing, and being very pushing for something, right? And he
To
didn't
get
get
an emotional response.
Yeah. And he showed a little anger, but in the very end, when he was putting his his glasses on and standing up, Piers said, "Thank you so much for sitting here with me." Basically thanked him, and he looked at him and he's all, "You're welcome." And the way he said "you're welcome" was so different to me from how he'd been talking. It was like he had stepped out of the role, and it felt much less controlled, much more casual.
Yes. Like it sounded conversational, the "you're welcome," as opposed to considering everything that was sort of coming at him.
I'm a lizard dressed in a human suit.
Right. With his,
Right.
He's looking, and his countenance is interesting in the way that it is similar in some ways to Brian Koberger, but not in others. Like, I mean, obviously Paris is I don't find him scary looking. I mean, in his prison garb, sitting there and knowing what he's done, sure, right? But if you were to just sort of see him walking around in street clothes, he wouldn't look frightening, I don't think. He has a pleasant face.
He's contained. He's not erratic.
Yeah, he's very conscious of how he comes across. Whereas Brian Koberger is like that's his default face. He's like,
Brian Koberger is so explosive, right? With the students, and the responses he was giving to them, and just the way that people talk about going to his office hours and how he just ignored and was rude to the girl, but would talk to other people, men. It seems, and I don't know, we don't get to see Paris really outside of an institutional setting,
which he's been in since he was 13.
Right. And so,
which is going to shape him in some ways, even as a psychopath. He's still shaped by his environment, coming into it at such an early age, his formative years.
Which, I was thinking about that because there was the flat affect thing, that was so obvious. But the flat affect, I thought, he said during the interview, he's smart enough, right, to say, I can't let my guard down in here in this interview because that does not serve me in this context when I leave this room. If I'm undone from this interview and I go back there, that's a liability for me in this psychopathic environment I'm in with people who prey on weakness. And he made that point, and I was like, that's a good point. And I actually let myself really think about this first. I'm like, that's why the strength, he's so good at the manipulation, because there is a truth to that. Like, it does not serve you in that environment to be emotional. Like, that's a liability, and
Yes.
to look weak. And, which came first? Like, he looked like a kid who could laugh and play and
Oh, he
have a
did.
range of feelings.
Yeah.
Then this thing happens. Then he gets institutionalized, which his mother and grandmother were very much against. They felt like he should be in a more of a mental health setting, which they took him out of before.
Well, that's where I'm like, bitch,
Yeah.
that ship fucking sailed. Like, they were telling you, keep him here. And then now, after your daughter's dead, you're like, wait, he needs help. You didn't think so
I know.
a few
God,
months ago.
What the hell? I feel like the mental health people. So you have to think that someone is a specific a danger to a specific person or a specific event. Like, if you heard someone's going to go bomb the Boston Marathon, you'd have to stop them. You could report to the police, and
Right.
you could. But I think maybe when he was in that setting, there wasn't enough of a specific threat. I don't know why they didn't say he's a danger to others, we cannot let him out and keep him in, or be more forceful with her and really drive it home.
It could be
Yeah.
that they're taking her word for it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't necessarily have any evidence except her own words. We also don't know what she said to get him out of there. She could
Yeah.
go, I'm exaggerating. It was actually not a knife. It was a toy knife. And he was we have no idea what she said to them to get him out of there.
Or he could just have lied and said, I'm not a danger, like, and proven over time. Yeah, it's like, you can get out of those settings if
Sure.
but that's the thing, is they won't let you out if you're actively psychotic. But if you're a psychopath, you can easily get out, because you
Yeah.
look contained. You can play a good game of like, no, I'm okay. I just had this bout of whatever, wanting to stab my mom to death. Now I'm fine. But so he's in this setting. It makes sense to have flat affect in that setting and to be a robot person. But I think he's smart enough to know that he. I think he was anxious in that interview when he was supposed to be answering questions that normal, whatever that is, but normal people would have emotion about. And I think he knew that in that interview. You can kind of see he gets thrown off and falls back on these sort of rehearsed answers when Piers is really pushing for, how do you feel about the fact that you killed your sister? How do you feel?
Yeah. And he's like, I
Yeah.
feel. And in his head, he's like, what do normal humans say?
And he kept saying, it's too complex, He kept going into this intellectual thing, right? I could give you a simple answer, but people really love simple answers, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, God, it's chilling.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, when you think about, like, the brand of psychopath that Paris Bennett is versus, if we're going to say brand, like the brand of psychopath that Brian Koberger is. Yeah. And Paris is, you can see that maybe had he never, been homicidal, if he hadn't killed his sister, the way in which he could have been like a charming, manipulative but charming, understanding, and very aware of the way he moves through life.
A philosophy professor. I think it would have been like a philosophy professor or a comp lit, or like he
exactly. He was an adorable child.
Yeah.
He knew he was a cute child. Like, you could tell he knew he was cute, and that he's going to use what he has to manipulate his way through life. And then you look at Brian Koberger, who was terribly awkward, picked on, 100 pounds overweight, filled with so much rage and entitlement.
Yeah.
And the way in which he can't easily he was never easily able to navigate through life. And then you see Paris, who you can see how things could have gone differently for him.
Right, like how we act on the environment and we get something back, and how the environment, and then the way we act on the environment changes the environment. Like, I think Brian Koberger, he was awkward, and he got that feedback back from the environment, which exacerbated.
Mm-hmm.
And then he continued to be awkward, continued to get that feedback, and he never learned. I mean, I think he tried to get it together by getting skinny, by working out, but they never socially, he just could never make it work. And it's interesting the way the murders happened. Like he was very stabby, very impulsive, obviously, like wasn't calculated, didn't grab the sheath back. I can imagine Paris, because Paris, they say the way he stabbed his sister was not like stabby, stabby, stabby. It was like slow stabs. That's what they
Yeah,
say.
it was very much probably like, I wonder what happens if I put
Yeah.
it in like this. I wonder
Yes.
what she'll do if I do this. It was like relishing the
Yes.
experience. Whereas Brian was, it was clear, it was very rage fueled, like to the point where
Yes.
he was even like striking one of the victims in the face. It was, yeah,
Yes.
just this attack.
Yes.
Whereas I don't think that Paris's was rage filled. I think it was a sick kind of curiosity. And also, he was looking at violent pornography. He had all kinds of access to the internet, being
Mm,
a young, really young boy, and access to not just pornography, but like violent pornography
yeah.
that he had been watching probably stirred up his feelings, and so that,
Yeah. You
yeah.
never. Yeah. Do you want? Should we talk about the psychopath like brain? And
Yes.
okay, so I'm gonna pull this up because I just like most people when people start talking to me about neuroscience, I'm really interested in the first sentence, and then I just like glaze over, like, "Ugh, I'll never remember this, like the anterior cingulate and all these things. So I'm gonna read this part of this article so it's not more confusing for people and for me. So there's this man, James Fallon. So he wrote this book called The Psychopath Inside, a neuroscientist's personal journey into the dark side of the brain. It's a good book. I've started it, I haven't finished it. But there's a really good article in the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. They've got a great article about him. They interview him for the article. So basically, James Fallon describes himself as a pro-social psychopath. And he makes the case that biology is not destiny, and even that some of the traits that are associated with psychopathy might make positive contributions to society. So basically, when they're talking about psychopaths, all of them, he discovered that all of them had a loss of activity in the limbic system. That's the emotional brain. And for the most part, that was the most obvious difference, including a lowering activity in the orbital cortex and adjacent ventromedial prefrontal cortex, that part that sits right over your eyes and your nose. And there was also abnormal and generally lower activity in the amygdala at the end of the temporal lobe. So, plus lower activity in a small strip of the cingulate cortex that looks like a big C that connects the orbital cortex and the amygdala. So, basically, like their brains are different and they have different things going on in different parts of their brain and different connectivity than a quote unquote normal brain. And so, what James Fallon discovered when he was doing his research on psychopath brains is he had these control subjects, and some of them were his family members. And he was looking at the control brain scans against the psychopath brain scans. And he saw one of his family members had a brain scan that matched the psychopath brain scan. And he got curious. So, he dropped the blind part of the study so he could see who it was, and it was himself. So, he discovered that he has a psychopath brain. And the person interviewing him said, "What is the significance of this lower brain activity?" And he said, "In looking at it all, it makes some sense, as psychopaths have a problem with emotional regulation and its integration with the cold cognitive thinking part of the upper half of the frontal lobe. That area of the brain, the orbital cortex, controls impulsivity, but also controls the sense of ethics and morality. It's a part of the brain that keeps you from doing things considered morally wrong, that helps to stop inappropriate behavior that is outside acceptable and social context for a particular society. The other part of the brain that was lower in activity was the amygdala." So this part confuses me, but I think it makes sense. He's the expert. But he said that's like your id. It controls rage, aggression, eating, drinking, sexuality, predatory behavior, and all the things that our inner animal finds necessary. But if that's turned on and it's not being inhibited by the orbital cortex, you've got a really wild, raging person. Normally, in a balanced brain, they inhibit each other. But if they're both down, the pattern is associated with a psychopath. So then he goes on. I'm going to read a bunch of stuff. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm basically reading you the whole article, but aren't psychopaths notorious for not wanting treatment? He said, yeah, usually they're just pissed that they got caught. I don't know of any really consistent finding of treating psychopathy unless you start treating them perhaps when they're 3 or 4 years old. After that, the brain connections are so fundamentally flawed, they're actually missing functional parts that nothing seems to really work. You can do temporary things, but I think the disconnection is too fundamentally flawed. So there's these genes that are associated. They're called like the warrior genes, and one of them is the MAOI gene, and one of those is a SERT. This is not really in other things I've read. This SERT one is not really considered a warrior thing, but basically, recent research on one of the serotonin system warrior genes, the serotonin transporter promoter gene, has shown that while those with this high risk allele, this is really interesting. This is for our conversation about like how do we prevent this. It has shown that while those with this high risk allele who undergo early abuse or abandonment will be at risk for later violence and aggression, but those with the same allele who undergo a positive, loving early environment will be at lower risk for such behaviors. It's as if in the first 2 or 3 years of life, the vulnerable prefrontal, orbital, and ventromedial cortex sees whether the environment one is born into is hostile or nurturing, and then tunes the cortex through the serotonin system to prepare for a lifetime in that environment. So this is good news because it means that you have the power to change in a positive direction. Benign or positive situations can offset genetic influences and environmental influences significantly, which is so cool, right?
But here's the thing. When he says that you have to essentially begin treatment early, as in 3, 4, 5 years old, what's the treatment?
Yeah, well, he said in his case, it was luck. Like, he's like, I just ended up in a family where they gave me a lot of attention, and I was actually handsome, had a good body, was the best dancer, was very smart. So he could like he wasn't a Brian Koberger, right? So like Brian Koberger also might have had a great family, right? And but I think everything else he experienced socially, you know, contributed to pushing him in the direction that isn't healthy. His ideas for treatment sort of resonate what we know about brain plasticity in anyone, is that like we have a lot more opportunity to change the earlier the intervention.
Right.
The later we intervene, the harder it is to change because we're set in our ways, basically old dog new tricks thing. His idea is that we could, if we wanted to, everybody, parenting, I think, is the great like cultural change piece that we need. I mean, if people could be supported in parenting and parent their kids in a way that their kids don't feel neglected, abused, abandoned, then we would have a lot better outcomes. And like with that gene he was talking about, the SERT gene, that like actually if they have a good environment, they have a less of a chance of being violent than the normal population does. But if you send them into an abusive situation, they become more violent than the general population. So they're just, if you think about it, it feels like vulnerabilities. We all have different vulnerabilities. They are really vulnerable to the context they're in. And so if you are born into a sort of psychotic world where your parents are, addicted to drugs, and there's no food in your house, and you have economic insecurity, and you're getting beaten, and the people around you are hurting each other, it's like, where are you going to, any people with a normal brain would tend to be shaped in a direction of right, not such a healthy behavioral repertoire being built there. But
a psychopath, it's going to the repercussions are greater.
Yeah, I mean, could potentially because of the system not really having breaks, like
right.
And so his idea is, through a saliva test. This is where it gets controversial because people don't even like to talk about these genes as warrior genes, because people don't want to think about it as like, oh, you have this gene, you're a criminal, and start profiling people that way, but he's saying, we could take swabs, because he said the early signs for psychopathy in kids, and this is true, they're not easy. Like if you saw chronic early sexual activity or chronic animal torture or something like that, that would probably tell you that your kid have this gene.
And in Brian Koberger's case, he was already like robbing homes as a little kid. He was breaking into people's homes and stealing.
Yes.
And
like chronic conduct disorder. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I sent you a message about this, like the this whole like the stigma around being branded as a potential psychopath, or even doing the saliva test to see, because of essentially what it says about your child. Except we screen for autism in 2-year-olds, and the idea being, the earlier you screen, the earlier you find out, the more likely that your kid will lead a well-adjusted life, have an easier time, get what they need to be able to function in society without being branded a weirdo, right?
And that's why I feel like his work is so important, because when we think of psychopaths, we fear them. They do a lot of destructive things, but our world is probably full of high functioning, really good, he makes this comparison. He's like, you have people like, JFK and Clinton, and then you have people like Jimmy Carter who are like the mensches, but the other people have the psychopath gene. Like they're people that'll take more, risks and, be a leader. Like a lot of the stuff associated with psychopathy is also associated with leadership. And so, so what he's saying really is like, let's actually look at these people as though they have a chance, and treat them early, so that, and he goes even further to say that, in a warrior culture in the world, the warrior cultures fight and kill each other off quickly. They die. But in modern society, where you have, potentially that gene being propagated, people reproducing, cultures reproducing it, like that we could have an issue with a population that's growing of untreated psychopaths. So why not just identify people young with a test like you do for autism, and you make sure that they have adequate parenting and support, and then they don't get bullied in high school or elementary school, and then they stand a chance of being shaped into a courageous, functional person, potentially, rather than.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's I guess we could say, like, we've managed, I think, to do a pretty good job of destigmatizing autism.
Yeah.
To the point where there's people who like want to be autistic. Like they're like, I'm an undiagnosed autistic. And I'm like, really?
Well, no, I mean, it's funny. Sure? I know. I took the autism test once because of my sensory stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's neurodivergent. If you look at what they're saying,
yes.
Not that genetics predetermine. I mean, genetics is so cool, because experience does impact the expression of genes. And so it's that whole nature nurture dance. And, rather than, incarcerate people after they've already done a bunch of harm, which is what we're doing now with psychopaths.
Right.
Start young and make sure that they get what they need from the environment, and that, that they can learn and be shaped in another direction. I mean, it's so like a no-brainer.
I would love to know, like, what percentage of winners of the Nobel Peace Prize are probably psychopaths.
He was saying this about cognitive empathy versus emotional empathy. He's like, I'm really good at cognitive empathy. And he's like, and you have people like, if you got rid of everybody that had this gene or this brain, you would lose people. Like he said Gandhi, he thinks of as a person who has a lot of cognitive empathy and maybe not like a lot of emotional empathy. And he named some others.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
John Lennon is the peace love guy that is like, would probably have identified himself as a feminist, was terrible to his ex-wife, to his own son, Julian, just completely wrote him off.
Oh, I
but
know.
wrote some of the best fucking music and preached about love and all of that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
that is somebody who recognized that we need peace,
Mm-hmm.
like in this sort of universal kind of way, and then
Mm-hmm.
in a personal way is just incapable, I think, of empathy. It seems,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yes. Like Paris.
Well, so with Paris, what's
Mhm.
so interesting, and you see this, and here's the thing, like there are things, I guess this goes without saying, but I'm just going to say it, and that is that there are things we absolutely don't know, and there's things that I'm sure Charity doesn't want out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. It's you're the mother of somebody that did something absolutely terrible, and there are things you're going to want to keep, you know, close to the vest that you don't think that anybody is entitled to know. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that I think that has not been said, but I think we can even just look kind of, and these are assumptions, like I'm making these assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
we know. Yes, Paris didn't want for much materially. His mother had a lot, I think, from her mom. Like the family had, like, you know, he had
Money.
like essentially generational wealth like coming down, and so he didn't go without food. You know,
Mm.
he was, you know, thought of as adorable and cute. You can see he's like, he looks good. He's well, physically well taken care of, precocious, does well in school. So we don't see anything of somebody who is struggling academically or not getting their homework done, anything like everything was sort of happening. What we know is that his mother had a drug problem, and so she was in and out of sobriety. We know that there are long stretches of time he spent away from her living with his grandmother. So there was this moving around piece.
Mm-hmm.
We know that his mother had a string of boyfriends that were living with Paris. She was married a few times. That has to
Oh yeah.
affect you. Ella's father was an alcoholic and then was like out of his life. Paris's father, I don't think he ever had a relationship with his dad, but his father, mental illness, out of his life. And then I want to say there was another person I may be forgetting that kind of came and went.
Mm.
I'm not sure, but at the very least, you know, there was he was observing an alcoholic in his home. We have no idea if there was abuse. Charity didn't say that there was. We have no idea, but there was a lot of upheaval in his young life.
Absolutely. Like not a lot of stability emotionally. And I think she had gone and relapsed right in the period before he killed Ella.
Yes,
Yeah.
about a three. She, I think she says it's like a 3 month cocaine binge, like relapsing on cocaine. She kind of downplays it a little bit. I get it. You know, this is embarrassing. You're broadcasting this out there. And then there's stuff that she doesn't say, but that the grandmother tells everyone in the documentary about Charity, and
Mm-hmm.
about Paris. Like she's the one that talks about the knife thing, about the institution. Well, I think she brings it up, and then Charity has to kind of address it later. And Charity says she does not regret taking Paris out of the institution. And I'm like,
Defensive much?
do I? Yeah. Also, like, you know what happened when you took him out, right? Like your daughter, that thing.
It's okay to have regrets.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, come
You
on.
can learn from that mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe things would have gone differently had he stayed there. But I think it's worth mentioning too the interesting kind of fact about Paris's grandmother. It is widely believed that she had her ex-husband killed, that she hired a hit on him and had him killed. And then she has a slip that I don't know if it's a slip. She says it with almost like a smirking tone in her voice, where she says, "Look, I just had to fool a jury."
Dude, and did you see her face in that interview? Right after she says it, she's all, and I had no jury to manipulate. And then she pauses and then she goes and looks at the camera and
Yes.
smiles.
Psychopath. Like
I like grandma
I
though.
I do too. Like I'm not gonna lie. There is this. She's the murder is whatever, right? But it's that type of psychopathy. The this is a problem. I must get rid of the problem. No remorse, cleans it out.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She's just like, my ex-husband cheated on me throughout our marriage. He is I'm not sure you know more about that case, where what the reason why she would have had him killed. It didn't really have much to do with the cheating. It had to do with the business aspect, right?
Yeah, well, apparently he had mob ties, so
Okay.
everything was in her name. So the whole business was in her name, but they had divorced, and he had a fiance he would put up in an apartment, and who he was, sort of, it's so mob-like, right?
Right.
All the girlfriends put up in the apartments. And so he was getting into drugs and drug trafficking, and people speculate that she was afraid that he was going to ruin their whole business situation.
Right.
And then that both of them agreed to get remarried. I don't know, this is not known to each other, I don't think, but that both of them were motivated by seizing control of the business. So they got remarried in Las Vegas, like less than within like the same weekend that he was killed. And that was strictly, I think, to protect her interests in the business, and he was trying to protect his interests. But then they say
But
that
she gets to be next of kin, so everything goes
yeah.
completely over to her power, and so she got off. She got off, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the kind of wink at the camera about essentially manipulating a jury. And they're an interesting family. Like, you can see, like, young Mrs. Bennett, the grandmother, was like a good looking woman. Charity in her youth, like, I know she's got
Mm-hmm.
that jaw thing, but like she was an attractive young woman. Paris was a cute kid.
Oh my gosh,
Ella
so
was a
cute.
gorgeous child. They're an interesting kind of like good looking family.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen a lot of commentary on the grandmother being a psychopath. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, some people think that Charity has something going on. I mean, well, clearly she
Mm-hmm.
has something going on. She's been married multiple times. I'm not saying that people that get married multiple times are have mental illness, but a lot of issues going on. But despite the issues, like with the drugs or the multiple relationships with bad guys, highly intelligent. You see her in the documentary, and she's like leading like
Mm-hmm.
some sort of a class
Yeah,
or
she got her
group.
master's in education. And yeah, she was great. I thought she was really great. And she was helping those women.
Yeah,
And then even in the Piers Morgan interview thing, they had peers interviewing him. They had those two behavioral analysts who were analyzing Paris. And then she was listening in and commenting.
right.
And she looks great in that. I think that's a newer.
It was a more recent one from the documentary when it was done. Yeah.
Okay. She looks great. And she seems like she's made progress in her what am I going to do when Paris gets out, if he gets out? Because she admits in that series or that show with Piers Morgan that she is now considering moving her and her son where Paris could not find them.
And changing their names.
Yeah, and she had never been considering that. She wasn't sure before. So it sounds like it's dawning on her. I'm like,
I
babe.
think so. I don't have any confirmation of this, but I saw a somewhat recent, within the last few years, that you can't find her now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
she has essentially done it. The thing is, and I agree with a lot of the, I guess, Reddit community that when I've gone in and read some comments that Paris would absolutely, if not kill Charity, kill his little brother that she had after Paris was incarcerated. Phoenix, the little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Paris's little brother. That the dumbest fucking thing she could have done is let Paris know that she had a baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then also encourage a relationship between Paris and this little boy who has spoken to him on the phone. Paris would write letters to him. I don't know if she ever showed Phoenix these letters, but Paris is really already from prison sort of ingratiating himself into this little boy's life, which again, it feels manipulative, and
God.
it's just very dangerous.
So here's my thing.
Yeah.
All right. So they say say you have an older psychopath. This happens a lot in forensic work with people who are released from prison. I think in some ways the best you can hope for where the die has been cast and someone is older is that you're managing it. You're not curing it.
Right.
You're basically, and usually the way you manage it is you you work with that person and you say, it's in your best interests if you want to live a life outside of prison and, have a girlfriend potentially, any kind of normative life, that you don't do these behaviors. So let's work on that. And it's very much about managing. It's not, there's not a cure. So this is my problem with that analysis. I'm so naive. Like I'm glad I don't work in a forensic setting because I'd probably get murdered by a psychopath who tricked me into thinking they were better. But like I am, I'm so naive. Like but this is what I think though. Really, is like if you're a psychopath, right? It was in his best interests as a child to kill his sister, who was his competition. If he wanted his mother's love and he wanted to be the only kid, and that makes total sense to me in terms of why he did that. All these pressures, total chaos. I think there might have been something sexual between him and his sister, just watching those early videos of him with her and the way he was touching her. I just felt something like, ooh, are his wires crossed about their relationship? Is there something? I don't know.
Well, you can see there's a lot of hostility that grew in the later videos where she's like, there's that when she's a teeny tiny baby and just sort of like, just this immobile, mushy thing, and he's fine with her. Then you see when she's mobile that he becomes very rough with her. He's like screaming in her face. He's like grabbing her head and moving it side to side.
Ugh.
He's showing aggression. And
also then, closeness.
Yes.
Like touching closely. All body, like bodies touching. And that to me was like, oh, okay, that's interesting,
Yeah, I don't know. This is where I wonder though, with what you're saying is once puberty hit.
Yeah.
It's like, that's when shit really fucking hit the fan, because you've got like this massive influx of testosterone. You have sexual arousal starting to crop up and easy access to online pornography. And all of that together was a recipe for disaster. And then the comment, I'm sorry, I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
In the documentary, there's that weird moment. He's little in it. He's probably like 7 or 8 years old. And he's like pacing around the kitchen and he's asking Charity, his mom, to what's a word she doesn't like. And she's busy washing the baby, right, in the sink. And she's like, I don't know. And he goes, what about a sentence that you don't like? And you can see the little genius kind of thinking about language and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I don't know, Paris. And he goes, what about kill Charity's children? And then she like shuts the thing off, the video.
Paris.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's interesting. And
he says, I'm going to kill you. In this one, he's like, has the baby.
Yeah. And he's telling her, I'm going to kill you, which was foreshadow. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the point that I was making is like, I don't really know if those doctors are right, because I don't know that he doesn't need his mother in the same way as he did as a kid.
Right.
Like, would that be the object of his aggression anymore? I don't know. Like, he seems singularly focused on getting out, and he wouldn't take any of the tests to test for like the warrior gene or any of the brain scans. He wouldn't do that because he's afraid it's going to impact his parole. So he's playing a good game. I mean, I would too. I'd be like, I want out of here. But so I don't really know if she's in danger anymore. I mean, in the right circumstances, I think he would do it again. I don't know that the right circumstances are his family. Like, I could imagine if he got out, got a friend, and that friend, and him were really close, and then that friend went and became friends with someone else, or a girl broke up with him or something, then maybe. I just don't know if that's the context in which he would act out anymore. But I guess there's enough of a danger to warn her off of it.
I think so. This is where, and again, I don't know. And we'll never know the exact reason why he did what he did. I don't know that Charity herself is in danger. I do think that the little one is in danger.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. First of all, he read Infinite Jest, which means he has patience.
He read it multiple times, right?
Yeah. He knows how to play the long game. So there is a world in which I could see him playing the long game hunting, finding out where Phoenix is, finding out Phoenix's new name, and seeing if he could get away with killing him. And seeing if he could get away with doing it and not getting caught, because Paris is if nothing else, he's incredibly arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. And I could see him thinking, oh, well, I'll play the long game. When Charity's defenses are down, when enough time has passed that she thinks she's okay, when she thinks Phoenix is okay, and then he just makes it look like something else. But he knows that deep down, Charity will be wondering if it was Paris, who is now out of prison. And of course, on parole, right? So it would have to be past a certain point. He'd have to, but I could see him doing something, but also because he was incarcerated at such an early age, we don't know if this is a homicidal like tendency, like a drive to kill, or if this was just a case of wanting to deeply hurt his mother.
Yeah, and being an impulsive kid.
Yeah, but I mean, he's clearly a psychopath, and he delights in tormenting, and he spent a lot of time tormenting her up to this point. There's also just with a lot of psychopaths, I think there is like an odd nihilistic bent where he might just decide to kill Phoenix and just go right the fuck back to prison because he spent most of his life there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing too. But I do want to say that I think it's incredibly hopeful that there is this belief in place by this guy that wrote the book, that there's a way to prevent this. And if we screened for it, like you screen for anything, for genetic testing, even when you know, like the odds are unlikely that you carry such and such gene. A lot of times, like when I was pregnant with the boys, I went ahead and submitted to a huge thing of genetic testing, because you never know, and you want to be prepared. And so if we could treat like the psychopathy gene the same way that we treat screening for autism, it doesn't mean that if your kid has a psychopath gene that he's going to become like Brian Koberger. It just means that you have a shot at making sure that, like, safeguarding him in a way. That's the thing with if the Kobergers had known that their son had this in place, the way that they would have gone about helping him in these situations where he was just ruthlessly bullied, you know, I know his dad took him to get boxing lessons, thought it would help him get in shape. I mean, all of that works for a normal person, right? For a normal kid. But in Brian's case, clearly he needed something more in addition to, you know, getting in shape and learning how to defend himself. He needed something more than that. And maybe had they known, hey, you know, he may have a propensity towards really severe antisocial behavior in the future. Here are some things you can do. They probably would have done it. They seem like good parents to his sisters. Like they seem all right. I don't know.
Well, this is the thing about like self-reporting. There's somebody, who was this? I can't remember who it was. It was somebody who is a behaviorist, but also an evolutionary biologist person. But they were saying, like, I don't believe a single thing people tell me about themselves. I look at their behavior. And I think that we can delude ourselves and other people really easily with self-reporting. We can hide a lot about what's going on inside of ourselves. So the swabbing and the looking at the actual brain functioning is useful in that you see the vulnerabilities. You see how like someone with that brain would do this thing. And like, you don't have to get concerned so much with, oh, they're drawing pictures of monsters and they're thinking about this, torturing women or whatever. It's like, you look at the brain and you say, well, this person has a vulnerability. So let's make sure that we do these interventions so that doesn't so that we shape them in a direction that's pro-social. You want to hear this interesting part? I don't want to take too much time, but this is so freaking cool. Okay. So that he's also doing research looking at violence in neighborhoods and countries around the world. And so I'll just read what he says. Oh no, my thing. I want it to be smaller. Okay. This note thing opens up and blocks my whole screen. Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. You're doing research looking at violence in neighborhoods and countries around the world. Can you describe it for me? My colleagues and I are putting together large grants to study the impact of living in different neighborhoods and of being in the military on the interaction between genes and brain imaging and all sorts of outcomes. We've been putting together proposals to study the hot spots around the world, including, this is a hot issue, but I'm going to say it anyway, including, this is what he said, Palestine, North Africa, Europe, and a couple of places in the United States to see the effect of trauma, abuse, micro traumas, and bullying over the long haul on individuals and transgenerationality in part of society in these hot spots. So they're looking at transgenerationality. We want to answer the question, does the effect of an early positive environment really overcome genetics? We look at the positive and negative outcomes. For example, we're now studying the brains and genetics of people who've committed suicide, and we know of generals and colonels for whom combat war actually helped them, a kind of post-traumatic growth instead of depression. And we look at their brains to see how they're different. There are people undergoing tremendous stressors in hotspots like the West Bank and North Africa. This is like 2014, I think, who for some reason come out smelling like a rose. And so the idea that how much of this is genetic and how much is early environment, some of it is taking people who are older and who've been through it. Sorry, this is him speaking. Also, if you have a population in one area or neighborhood with constant violence and you go a mile away where it hasn't been that way, you can see that they have the same kind of age, ethnic, educational pattern without the violence. Then you can see how the behaviors are affected or how the genetics are different. You can look for epigenetic markers or tags associated with changes in gene expression that have to do with traits that jump generations. The more new research that comes out, the more it seems that this epigenetic jumping may happen in areas of the brain like the orbital cortex that are connected to social behavior. Those are exactly the ones that have to do with psychopathy, with violence and antisocial behavior. So the social brain is modifiable. And for someone who has been in a war zone or bad neighborhood, these traits can start concentrating and you can see a buildup of a kind of warrior culture, which is so interesting. And then he says, the only way you can urge action is by showing something scientifically. We know warrior cultures don't last. They end up beating themselves up. So if you can show that the result of making a culture of violence in an area of a city or in a country or government is that they're going to kill themselves because they are encouraging a psychopathic brain pattern to develop and allowing a warrior culture to take root and reproduce, then people will take notice. Of course, we're not going to make up that data. It's got to come out that way. If it doesn't, then, well, flame on. What else are you going to say? But the idea of showing why we must reduce the violence of war and stop poor parenting, well, that's my real motivation for attacking it this way. So cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, basically, if we don't address this, we're going to get a really violent culture with a bunch of psychopaths, like, ruling it. You know what I mean? And a large population of psychopaths. So culturally, it would benefit us to work on parenting skills and parenting and on not having wars and on dealing with violence.
It reminds me of that documentary that your mom recommended that I watch, where like psychopathic fucking killer was like thrilled to be in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And, you know, it was easy to write things off as, oh, well, look, this guy was going to attack us. And what he was doing was scalping these guys.
Oh.
And like stealing trophies. I forgot the name of the documentary, but it was a good one. But it's like, of course, you're going to find psychopaths right there, like in real gung ho to get
running
out there,
your companies, leading in the military, running your country. What was the other thing? Like CEOs running,
performing brain surgery. Ooh. But like, here's the thing: you kind of want that person with all the confidence in the world that sees themselves as being like a god. Mm-hmm. Operating on your brain, not somebody that's nervous, not somebody that has any kind of self-doubt. You want someone that thinks they are the bee's knees fucking doing major surgery.
Yes.
And they tend to be like, not all of them, but many of them tend to be psychopaths.
Oh yeah. I mean, Paris looks like he has a very steady hand.
Yeah, he does. I'm sure he does. Sure he does. Wow. Well, anyway, I guess that wraps it up, guys. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey of discussing the psychopathic brain and Paris Lee Bennett, the unnamed. Well, we don't know anything about the Lyman case about that child, but it reminded me of Paris.
Yeah, and that's a great suggestion because I knew nothing about Paris really before we started this research this week, and he's the perfect case for studying. If you want to see psychopath behavior, watch the Piers Morgan episode.
You can find it on YouTube. You just have to it's like part one, part two. Each part is like about 5 minutes long, so there's like many parts, but it is absolutely worth watching. So much food for thought. Yeah. All right, gang. Well, thank you for joining us. And please follow us on Instagram at Secret Passage Podcast. Follow us on X at Secret Pass Pod. Please subscribe to our Patreon, where we have never before seen like content. We delve further into subjects. You can email us. Please leave us a 5-star review, and always let us know episodes you'd like us to do. If you have anything to add to the conversation, please do, because we're trying to build a community here where we're also learning more information. We love it when people have some inside info about places, people, other points of view, etc. It's pretty awesome. But we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.